welcome to this week's episode of the Uncovery Podcast. My name is Maddie, and I'm recovering from anorexia, and I talk about it on this podcast. Is that a bug? Oh my god. Ugh. Ew, that was the biggest bug I've ever seen. Okay, this is... I don't even know if I'll release this. This is a weird emergency episode that I just need to talk this out. I think I mentioned in the intro of the last video, I'm on Codeine. So anything that comes out of my mouth right now, just take with a grain of salt and a little bit of grace. The last podcast episode, I think I mentioned at the beginning that I've done something. I've had some kind of injury to my low back or hip, and I can't walk. And I don't remember even how much I went into it then, but I have basically been bedridden for a week. I am in this little flat in London, and it's got 2 levels, so it's got this good amount of space. So if you're going to be trapped inside somewhere in London, this is not the worst flat to be in. But I essentially have not been able to do anything because I can't put almost any weight on my left leg without it almost kind of giving out from the pain. And it's been like this for a week. And I was on medication from the doctor starting a week ago that was basically a really strong anti-inflammatory, and then at night a muscle relaxant, and he said it should resolve in a couple days. It didn't. And so I called midway through the week, and they were like, just give it some more time, keep at it. But it hasn't improved. It's not like there's been some marginal improvement. There will be these 1 hour slots in the middle of the day right after I take probably my second dose of just probably too much paracetamol, which is Tylenol back home, that I can walk across the room without this kind of buckling, excruciating pain. But aside from that, there's been no reprieve whatsoever. And I am really struggling. And I think it has shown me just how much I was still attached to movement. And so I'm taking this as kind of, I don't know if it's the final frontier of the eating disorder recovery process, that I still obviously have had work to do in regards to my relationship with exercise and movement, because the real test of that is if you take it away and you can't do it, then what happens to your brain? And if you are fine, then you probably don't have a problem with exercise anymore. But if you freak out or get depressed or whatever it is, then maybe this is something that we're still needing to look at. So this is a very big test for me and has been extremely taxing just mentally. I will say that the amount of empathy that I have for people that have ongoing chronic pain when they walk or move, or people that can't walk, I will never ever again be impatient when somebody's walking slowly in front of me, because I'm now been that person when I've been going to and from the clinic or to pick up a prescription or something, who's barely taking a step at a time. And so that's a silver lining, is that the empathy has just shot through the roof. This kind of Zen patience, and trying to figure out how to rest and how to do nothing, how to move not at all. Obviously, all of my work can be done without being mobile. I work on my laptop. I can work from anywhere. So I've gotten lots and lots of work done. I got my taxes done, which this a whole nother, I just what an absolute pain. But any administrative task that I've been putting off is okay, well, I guess we'll just do that, because what else are we going to do except for watch Love is Blind on Netflix? But I went back to the clinic today because I was I've been at this for 7 days. My meds have run out. I'm at my wit's end here. I can't walk. I've been in London for a month, right? Almost? Not quite a month. But I have 2.5 weeks left on my trip, and I've spent the majority of it in pain. Because before this was like this thing with my shoulder, and that was like 2 full weeks of like the beginning of my trip. And then it's been this. And so I'm like, my brain is just so unkind still when it comes to this thing. It's like, the main thing that's coming up for me is like, you deserve this. This is your fault. Because I was really unkind to my body for a really, really long time. And I over-exercised, and I pushed myself beyond what I should have been doing. And so my brain is like, you did this. Like, this is the karma. Like, this is the repercussion of all of those actions. And so you've done something that you've permanently done now, and now this will be like this forever. And you deserve it because you did this to yourself. And so that's the main thought that I'm having, which is, I know, not correct or not kind. And I'm choosing to reframe this as like you had to do this. This is like the big Bowser, big boss of like your eating disorder recovery, is to be able to get through something that basically makes you completely unable to move. Like, you had to face this demon at some point. But it is really hard. And anybody that's gone through this will understand it. It's a very it's difficult to explain, like, why does it make you cry that you can't exercise or move? And it's like, it's partially that. It's partially just physical pain and frustration and not being able to do anything that I intended to do while I was here. So it feels like this big waste of time and this big waste of money to have come all this way and to be like, laying in my flat being like useless. But it is a big part of it is this, like, you get this buzz from exercise and you can't do that. And even though I wasn't still treating exercise as like a weight loss tool, it was clearly still a coping mechanism of some kind, to feel safe in my body. And so without it, it's very, very challenging. It's also very challenging to continue to eat when I know I need to, despite not moving around at all. Because your brain just goes right into being like, well, you don't eat all this food. You're going to only gain weight. You're going to lose any kind of like, I don't know, muscle or whatever, like bullshit things that your brain will tell you. But like, if you have gone through this, I am with you. If you're going through this, I have a lot of empathy for you. This has always been harder for me than dealing with food stuff. The movement part has always been more difficult for me to really fully let go of. So I don't know if this episode even has a point, but this feels like it has to be important. I don't know what kind of faith or belief I have in, call it God, call it the universe, but it would be a waste if I didn't find some kind of meaning in all of this, in the same way that I find some kind of meaning in the fact that I've gone through the eating disorder and recovery at all. So there has to be like something. And I think that it is like, if I can do this and I can learn that I can rest and that I need to be able to listen to my body, then maybe that's the point of all of this. So I am still eating. Don't worry. I just hate it. I just hate it. It's just mechanical. I'm eating like the same thing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm just eating the same thing over and over and over because it's easy and it's what's in my flat. And it's just like Groundhog Day. Everything's just like running together. It's so miserable. I feel like such a whiner too. It's really an identity thing when you identify as like a sparkly and happy and positive person, especially because of how happy I've been lately. This is like, I hate being this person. And so many friends have been so supportive and they're like, how are you doing? Is it any better? How are you doing? And it's just like, it's actually painful to just say like, no, it's not. It's like, it's the same. 'Cause you feel like you want other people to feel better. Does that make sense? Like when you have something or you're going through something, and I think this is universal, and like something really shitty happens, and then somebody is like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, is it any better? How are you doing? And you're like, no, it sucks. It still sucks. And it sucks just as much as it did before. Nothing is better. You feel bad for saying that. You want to be like, oh, it's a little bit better so that they feel fine. Do you know what I mean? It's like when somebody dies and then the person's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And then all of a sudden you're comforting them, even though you're the one that should be sad. Anyway, I hate being a Debbie Downer. I don't even think there are that many podcast episodes that we've even had that have been within this mood. Even all of the struggly parts with the food that I was building up over the last year and a half. This is like the worst it's felt for sure. This is probably the most difficult, just emotionally, because it's all of these different factors of like not being able to move or do anything fun or go out or see all the people that I'm meant to be seeing and doing the things in London that I want to be doing, and not having exercise and just being in so much pain all the time and having it not improve day over day. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would rather be sick. For sure, I'd rather be sick than be injured or whatever this is. Because if you're sick, your immune system will like kick in at some point. Like if you have your vitamins or take your antibiotics or take your meds or just rest and sleep and hydrate and whatever, that eventually day over day, like you will feel better from the flu or from some kind of illness. I'm like, I'd rather have COVID again. I'd rather have COVID than not be able to walk. Are you kidding me? It's like lockdown, but you can't even move inside your house either. Anyway, I don't even know if there's a point to this, but like this is struggle city, and I think I just needed to get it out. I don't even know if I'll release this, but if you are really in the weeds with something and you're like, I don't know how much of this I can take, you are not alone. If you feel like you're at your wit's end about anything, or you're just having a shit time that you thought was supposed to be sparkly, which is like just generally what London maybe that's just like what London is to me, because and the episode about London will cover this, but like when I lived here, it was really great and it was really sparkly and I did really cool things, but I had this like looming hideous manifestation of my eating disorder at the time that sort of put this cloud on everything. And now I'm back in London, and I was expecting this like really healing, positive kind of journey to reflect on all of that and to have come out sort of the other side with it. And instead of it feeling really sparkly and healing, although for a couple of days at the beginning it did, now it's just been like this chronic ongoing pain of various kinds that I cannot get through. And I hate the dissonance between what I think London should be like for me and what it is like in reality. It's such a pain. I wish it was not like this, because you think that you should be really enjoying yourself when you're doing big trips and things like this. Like, yay, oh my gosh, how's London? It's actually terrible. It's mostly a struggle, but I have had really great friends and support and people checking in and seeing if they can do anything, and that's been really magnificent. So yes, that's basically today's little bite. I don't really have anything else to say about this, but I'm keep my fingers crossed that if I can get into like an orthopedic specialist, which, by the way, okay, let's talk about private and public healthcare for just 1 second. They kind of have a hybrid model here in a similar way that in Canada, like mostly it's public covered healthcare and it's free. But if you want something done quickly, and you go to a private clinic and you can pay for that. And so the clinic that happened to be closest to me, I didn't even realize it wasn't a public one, but I went and I paid to get the consultation initially. And then you have to pay for them to like write you a prescription. And then you have to pay for the medication that is the prescription. And so then I had to go back and pay for a follow-up today. And now if I want to go to a specialist, like an orthopedist, I'm going to need to pay for that. And it's not cheap. Like, this is for very, very comfortable, financially secure people can afford private healthcare. But if you want to just like do something quickly and get something done, then I guess it makes sense, right? Like, it does make sense to have the option. But anyway, I really hope that we can get through this and that it will start to relieve. I have more medication. As I mentioned, it includes codeine. So like, I can just like plead insanity for this episode. Be like, I was high as a kite. I was on meds. Ugh. Okay, send me healing vibes. Thanks for letting me get this out. If anybody listened to this. Ugh. Have a great rest of your day.